Start recording the mixer in 5, 4, 3.
Y'all, listen. If there is one thing I've learned, adversity does not build character. Adversity reveals character. I'm Barbie Bassett, and I invite you to join me and my friends, Terese Apel and Tracy Lee, as we peel back those adversity layers to see what else is revealed. Y'all, listen here. We want to say a big, big thank you to our title sponsor here for today's show. Are you ready to glow like never before? Well, you can dive into the world of Mad Aesthetics Med Spa, which is Mississippi's go-to spot for stunning skin and natural injectables. Whether you're looking to rejuvenate your look or just treat yourself, their expert team has got you covered. In fact, they're friendly, they're knowledgeable, and they are focused on real results, y'all. No fluff, just fabulous. Seriously, once you go to MAD, you won't go back. So why wait? You can treat yourself today and discover the MAD difference. You can visit their website to schedule your appointment at madaestheticsms.com or give them a call at 601-559-2033 or stop by their location. They are at 272 Calhoun Station Parkway, Suite E in Madison for more information. So thank you, Mad Aesthetics Med Spa, for being a really big part of Y'all Listen Here. And I'm here today with my good friend, Terese Apel with Dark Horse Press. Hey, Terese.
Hi, everybody. It's exciting to be here.
Yeah, and we are missing our other partner in crime. Well, we don't do crime, but but we are missing Tracy Lee. She is working today. We've said this before, but Tracy's one of the bosses there at the radio station.
So yeah, she's a bigwig.
Sometimes the bosses can't even get away from being the boss, and so we're missing her today. But we've got our man with the plan, Daniel Anderson with Audio Alchemy Productions here. Daniel is our producer, which, by the way, if you have ever thought, gosh, I sure would like to have a microphone in front of my face, Daniel's the guy who can do it. He's our producer here. Give yourself a hand, Daniel.
Oh.
Yeah, we love Daniel. No, really, give him a call. He's great. He's a fantastic podcast producer. He's the one that makes this happen for us, and he can be the one that makes this happen for you. We hope you've had a great week. Terese, are you ready for our topic of the day?
You know, I am. This one's so intensely personal, I feel like. I mean, but that's kind of what we do now.
Yes. I don't know if you have discovered this, but it seems like, and maybe I'm just speaking for myself, I don't know, but it seems like the older I'm getting, my circle of friends are getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And it's not that I want that necessarily, because my kids give me a hard time. They say, Mom, you don't have any friends. And I do have friends, but it's like the friends that I had years ago. Things just happen in your life. You get busy. You start having different seasons of your life. And I see people on social media and they go out to eat with like 10 and 15 friends. And I'm just sitting here with my ice cream, my Bluebell. And I'm like, where have all of my friends?
Yeah. Well, and I think, so we talked about this a little bit a week or two ago, in one of our last podcasts, but I posted something on Facebook one day about like, do you remember when we were in college and you had that friend you could call at 3 a.m. that would go to Waffle House with you and cry over your latest heartbreak or whatever? And that's the weird thing. I was wondering, as we were talking about this being our topic for today, I was thinking, is the disappointment of being a grown-up and trying to find friends based a little bit on the fact that we forge our idea of what a friend is as a young person? Mm. So our children, you know, when we're children, we're going and doing stuff with our friends all the time. As young people, when we aren't married, we don't have kids, we don't have all-inclusive jobs that are all the time. And I think we were raised in a little bit of a different life when your job wasn't like now we're both having to work like crazy people.
Right.
But like, you know, there was less emphasis on being professional all the time. Mm-hmm. So it was a different kind of thing. And to me, that's what my heart longs for, is to have those friends I can call up and just be like, hey, Saturday, let's drive over to Vicksburg and go to the Bluffs. Because who has that time anymore?
Well, and things change. People change. We
Mhm.
all grow up. We all go through our different challenges as we get older. And it's not that the people that I used to be close to, something necessarily went wrong. It's just I've noticed that the people that I used to be close to, I'm no longer close to, like we
Right.
used to be. So perhaps some of it has to do with aging and being at different seasons in our life. Let's take you and I, for instance,
Mhm.
and Tracy, who's not here with us today. Neither one of y'all are married. Neither one of you have children. I'm married, got 3 kids. So our schedules are different.
Mhm.
What we're going through is different. But at the same time, we are so in tune with each other
Mhm.
that our friendships are so solid that when I text you or when I call you and say, I need a pit friend right now, you hop down in the pit
Yeah.
with me. And we're not upset that we haven't all 3 gotten together and had lunch in
Right.
about 4 weeks
Right.
or something like that. I remember being in high school and college and having those previous friends. And if you hadn't seen anybody for a week or two, it was almost like they would get their feelings hurt
Right.
that you had not made time for them. And I get that. And I think probably in many cases I felt the same way. But now I'm doing good just to remember to put deodorant on.
Right. Right. And I wonder, did our parents go through that? Was
Ooh.
there is it society today that's making it more of a challenge to find time for anything other than work and immediate things like children? Or for me, when I had my dad here, it's like my priority was dad, work, sleep.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have a lot of emotional bandwidth for much more than that. And so I feel like it could be that as we get older, we're more stressed. We've got more to think about. We've got children and parents. We have work, and we work in a very high paced, very high stress environment.
Right.
I think about like when you were talking about the friends that you used to have, and you kind of aren't really there with them anymore. I think about the friends I've had over the years, and it's kind of the same thing. At some point, there became a place where we went separate ways, and a choice was made whether we said it out loud or not. In some cases we did.
Right.
In some cases though, it's just like you realize one day, like I hadn't heard from that person, I hadn't thought about him,
Mm-hmm.
and I wonder what it takes to be that friend that's closer than a brother. I mean, I guess that's God, but to be that strong, like the friendships they talk about in the Bible.
Yeah. And it could be also that as our ages have evolved and our seasons have evolved, we have evolved from the standpoint of things that used to be important to me, like having a girls' night out.
Yeah.
It just doesn't trip my trigger anymore.
Mhm. Well, and the other thing is too, the things we're interested in, like you're talking about with Girls Night Out. For me, even as a single woman, I don't want to sit around and talk about boys all day anymore.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, back in college.
I don't know. That was fun back in the
and
day.
that's the thing I think about, like back when it used to be so cool, like, oh my God, he talked to me today.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
now it's like I may have a crush on some dude. He talks to me. I'm like, okay. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I think a lot of that is stress. A lot of it is, by this point I've had 10 dozen crushes.
Mhm.
How many of them have been worth anything? Really not. There's nothing to get excited about anymore. Or, my friends that are married, some of them, that's not what they want to talk about. They've got kids stuff, they've got work stuff. And in some cases, like, I don't want to talk to them about it because I feel childish. And so I was kind of thinking the other day, like, and I think I mentioned to another friend of mine that I'd had a little bit of a crisis and I didn't know who to reach out to. And she said, why not me? I was like, well, you're all the way over there in Clinton,
Mhm.
And I realized there's also geographical issues sometimes. Sometimes I tend to feel like, well, what I'm going through, it's not going to make sense to somebody else, or it's going to seem petty, or they're going to be like, gosh, here you are with a problem again.
Mhm. So we've got a male counterpart who's in this room with us.
Right.
And that is Daniel, our producer. Daniel, do guys go through this same thing, or is it just the ladies who notice that our friend circles are getting smaller the older we get?
Yeah, I would say that, I mean, my friends, I'm not really the greatest person to ask about this because I literally have one friend.
Yeah.
I've got one friend. He works at this office. He pops in periodically. We, shoot the crap and have a good time. We do a podcast together once a week, and that's it. Like I have no desire to have a ton of friends. I just don't. What I get from Drew is it just fills my cup, I guess. So like while I understand, like certainly when I was younger, I did desire that those additional friendships because they kind of completed something in me that I was lacking. But maybe I'm just crazy. Maybe I'm a psycho or what, but like I'm
No.
totally okay with one friend. And I think that it's okay to like normalize like not having a ton of friends, like especially when we have kids and stuff. Like when am I supposed to have time for the like
Yeah.
to go out? I mean, Drew and I will make plans, and the vast majority of the time, Thomas is having a hard time. Like, well, let's put it off, and that's life. Like that's my life, and I kind of like my life. So I think it's okay to like normalize not having a ton of friends
Mhm.
and just focusing more on quality rather than quantity.
Ooh,
Right.
that's good. In looking at the Bible, even Jesus had 12 friends.
Right.
He had the 12 disciples that were with him, as he traveled and as he ministered. But even Jesus's circle got smaller.
Mm-hmm.
The more his ministry continued to intensify as he felt like as he knew he was being called to the cross, his friends' circle got smaller. He was still friends with the 12,
Right.
but there towards the end, it was Peter, James, and John. It
Mhm.
were the three that went up with him to the Mount of Transfiguration. It was those three who went up with him to the Garden of Gethsemane.
Right.
That when he was praying, he asked, can y'all stay awake with me? Can you at least pray with me, stay awake with me? And we know that they didn't. So I find it interesting that while he had the group with him most of the time, it was the three who were with him at the end. What do you see there?
So, I think that's something that it gives us an insight again to the humanity of Jesus. Because, I mean, I know there was a time in my life when I could have done 12 friends.
Right.
Now, oh gosh. Can you imagine trying to keep up with that many people?
Yeah.
And for him, like, yeah, he had a leadership role and that kind of thing, but you have to have those people. And I think women and men are different. I think Daniel is absolutely justified in how he feels about it. I think women, whether we like to admit it or not, we do need to connect. I think when we have our walls up and we're not making friends, I think there's a piece of us that needs to have a village. Because if you look back at, the societies through history, the village was the mothers and the grandmothers and all that keeping things together while the men went hunting or went to war or things like. And I'm thinking particularly Native American, but that's a way that society has functioned, and I think it is built in us to want to have community. So to me, when I think about when I've got my walls up and I'm not making friends and I'm not connecting, it's because there's some kind of hurt that I'm harboring. And that may be when we need our friends the most. And you figure Jesus has the world on his shoulders. He knows what he's here for. He's going to die for these very people. And he needs to have somebody that, even if he can't say, like, no, y'all, I'm serious. Like,
Yeah.
I'm fixing to die in a year or two for you guys for all of eternity. I'm going to hell, y'all. Even if he couldn't quite say that, he needed to have that closeness in that moment when he needed them the most.
Yeah, I'm looking at some of the comments that are coming in, which, by the way, we are live right now. If you're watching us on Facebook, this is also being recorded, which you can find on your favorite podcast providers. But I want to go up to Hannah. She said, I think the more you dive into who you are and you learn who you are, you'll start to want to surround yourself with people with similar drive. And that's when my circle got smaller.
Mhm.
When the things that are important to you and the concerns that you have, you want to be around those like-minded people who can support you and encourage you, but also at the same time challenge you.
Yeah.
I'm looking at Edna, who says, I've got 3 to 4 close friends that are prayer warrior friends. We don't see each other very much, but we can call on each other anytime. We'd be right there. These people who have dozens of close friends, I don't know how they maintain that. I'm not really sure that all of them are true blue friends. Great point, Edna. I call them pit partners
Yeah.
or pit friends. And case in point with the two of you, with you and Tracy, when I had one of my most difficult times in my life with the situation,
Dun dun dun.
The
I knew that
catastrophe.
was coming.
Yeah.
Knew that was coming. You reached out to me and said, what can we do? We're here for you. And that's how this friendship began. But both of you got into the pit with me, both emotionally, physically, and spiritually. And I've got other people who did the same. But those are the type of friends that I want as I continue to live my life. I want the pit partners
Yeah.
that, even like Edna says, maybe we don't see each other all the time. Maybe we don't talk to each other all the time. But when I'm in the pit or when I'm on the mountain and we've got good news, which we're always
Right.
sharing with each other, y'all are the ones who are there, no matter the time and distance that it's been since the last time that we got in touch with each other.
Right. Well, and I feel like you kind of touched on something important there. Like, who do you want to share your good news with? Because a lot of friendships are built on, the drama. A lot of friendships are built on the negative things. I'm thinking about a couple that I had several years ago, and it was a lot of boy talk. It was a lot of, let's all go out, let's all, get pretty and do fun things. And we had a friend group and that kind of thing. But to be fair, like, in that, I think I had like basically one female best friend, and I told her everything. And it was like, to me, there was a friendship that needed to be had there. I needed to pour into this person. I needed her to pour back. And that didn't happen a whole lot. But she was my friend. So here I am. I'm going to stick. And then, it's like you get to a point where you realize, okay, everything that I'm getting back from her is sapping me and is hurting me and is leaving me in a position where I don't have much to give anybody else. The thing I love about these friendships is that we give to each other and we get from each other. And I feel like that's what it needs to be like. I mean, there needs to be nourishment on all sides because we do need to be prayer partners. We do need to be confidants, that kind of thing. But I think, too, when you find a circle that is yours, you are the sum, as they say, of your 5 best friends.
Yeah.
And when you think about the people that you allow into your circle, and then you think about who you allow close, that's a sobering thought sometimes. And at times in my life, I can track, gosh, I probably wasn't very good at that point because look at those people. But now I'm in a position where it's a little different.
Yeah. In just thinking about the scriptures and how things were done back when, Jesus was walking the earth, how they had an inner court and how they had an outer court. And anybody could go to the outer court. I mean, anybody could go to the outer court. But it was those who were willing to go to the next level, to bring the sacrifices in, to do true worship, who were the ones that went into the inner court. And that's how our friendships seem to be as well. You've got people who are on the outer courts of your life. They're the people that you see every day at work, at school, at the grocery store, that you see on social media. I would call them acquaintances. But then you've got those that you allow into your inner court because those are your pit partners. And anybody can be an acquaintance, but very few can be and are willing to be a partner in the pit with you when you need that. And if you think of your life, your friendships like a theater, if you will.
Yeah.
You've got the balcony people, and then you've got the pit crew.
Right.
That pit crew, whether they're the orchestra or whether they're the ones on the sides of the curtain, on the sides of the stage, supporting you in what do you need from us? What do you need next? We're here. We're right there. We're like that orchestra in the pit who are with you as that song in your life is being played. And then you've got those who are just kind of watching from far away. I don't know. The older I am getting, I think I want more partners in the pit than I do the balcony friends.
Yeah. Well, and I think so. Take out the part we were talking about where, like, I would love to have somebody that on a Wednesday night at 5 p.m. I could call and be like, "You eating yet? Let's go."
Yeah.
You
Oh,
know,
sure.
because as a
Yes.
single girl, I mean, there's still that part of me that because I don't have the connections at home, I don't have the husband and kids, and I always say it, and people always contradict me, but I don't have a built-in set of people that love me, and I talk to mothers who are like, it's not the same. Like, I'm so lonely. And it's two different kinds of loneliness, I think.
Yes.
I think both are valid. But, it's like, so I do wish I had some of those friends that are maybe a little more superficial, but are available. But when the time comes to really get in the pit, I know who I'm going to. And this is the first time in my life that I have multiple people that, you and Tracy, I've got my friend Amanda, I've got Nicole, I've got, several people that, and we've talked about it before, that I intentionally went to. And after realizing that this personality match works, and our priorities are on the same page and we both have the same kind of faith, or we both have, similar interest or whatever it may be based on, there is enough there to make this connection official, as it were.
Yeah.
So I would go sit down with them and, hey, do you want to go to lunch? And while we're sitting at lunch, I'd be like, listen, this is going to sound really weird to you. But, and it's going to sound like I'm asking you out on a date, but do you think you would want to be my friend? Like, I'm trying to pick friends that are good for me. And when you do that, the thing is, like, not one of y'all at least acted like you thought it was weird. Every
Right.
one of y'all that I did that to was like, no, that's so cool. Like,
Yeah.
because we realized that when eHarmony started up and it was to match personality points, and I should say eHarmony at one point was like, we can't even match you. Like, you're too weird. That actually happened to me. I'm not making that up. It's really tragic. But, when you look at that, those personality points, we tend to be friends with the people that are close to us. That's just the way things fall. But when you make it intentional, you can kind of handpick those people who not only do you see something in them, but when you ask them that question, do you want to think about being my friend? It gives them the option, like, you know what, I see something in you too. Or like, I think you're, and I don't know what the right answer is if you don't want to be. Maybe it's, I think you're a little busy for me, or I don't know. But none of y'all did that. And I'm grateful.
And how many times have we been together out at lunch or something, and one of y'all have called each other out? Like, well, you don't need to think like that, or
Right.
I think you're, misinterpreting this. And that's also what I love about those close friends is they will speak truth to you. They will correct you in love when there needs to be a correction, but they're also going to be the ones who are lifting you up when you need that.
Right. And I think that is a very important part of being friends, is being able to call each other's attention to
Mhm.
things like that without it becoming a problem. Because I've had friends that when I'm like, hey, don't talk to yourself like that, they're kind of like, don't talk to me like that.
Yeah.
Or when I'm like, do you think maybe you need to look at this a different way? And it's like, you're not the boss of me. But instead, we can all sit around in a circle and, I mean, there have been days, and I've said it in this very room where I'm looking at myself up on the screen. I'm like, ugh, yuck. And y'all are like, and I'm like, okay. And to me, it matters that we love each other like that. Because to me, if you don't have that love, that's like, no, I'm not going to let you, I wouldn't let anybody else talk to you like that. I'm not going to let you talk to yourself like that. Or, I see what you're thinking, but have you thought about it from this perspective? Or any of the ways that we gently correct each other. When that comes from like, I love you, that's a whole different vibe.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I love this about the close friendships that we have is the average person, the average acquaintance will try to help you get out of something. There are many things that I've gone through in my life that I don't need to get out of, but I need to get through it. And that's what the pit partners, that's what the true friends do. They help me get through it. Even the Bible says that although I walk through the valley of the shadow, I need those people to help me see it's just a shadow and to help lead me through whatever I'm challenged with, not necessarily get me out of it.
Well, so, Okay, let me ask you this. I mean, I know that especially since the situation, there have been people that have kind of ghosted, that have just kind
Oh,
of disappeared from
sure.
your life.
Yes.
How do you deal with that? How do you kind of, when you're sitting there and you think, oh, I'd love to go eat ice cream with
Mm-hmm.
Sandy, Sarah,
Mm-hmm.
pick a
Yeah.
name, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, but then you realize, like, I hadn't heard from her since 2 years ago.
Uh-huh.
How do you deal with that?
Well, I have quite a few of those. And it's been hard. It's been sad because I think most women have a tender heart and that they want everybody to like them. How could it be that we've worked together for almost 24 years and just don't hear from you like I used to, or, used to know you through this particular avenue and I haven't heard from you since. There is that sadness that comes, but I've had to see it as a protection of my own heart, that maybe there is something there that the Lord is trying to protect me from. And I just have to trust Him. Doesn't make it easy, but I just have to trust Him that there's a reason why I have not heard from that former friend or a former coworker or whatever, fill in the blank, whatever it is, that it's God's protection.
Mm-hmm. I always say, as a reporter and as a human and as a Christian, I always say the truth has a sound,
Ooh.
and we tend to recognize that sound. Now, different things can cloud it and whatever like
Sure.
that, but I feel like the same is true of authenticity, and I feel like just like a lie shuns the truth, I feel like sometimes things that are not authentic cannot long stay in the presence of something authentic. So I feel like sometimes, we all hit, even the best of us hit phases in our lives where maybe we've got walls up, or maybe for whatever reason, we're just not able to be authentic in this situation. And I feel like sometimes that's what happens to friendships, is when you're in a period of strong authenticity, and you've been having to live your truth. And I hate that phrase, live your truth, because I believe there's one truth. But the point is, you've been having to stand your own ground.
Mhm.
And the people who are not able to stand there with you, at least in my experience, I've found that a lot of times you don't just find out who your friends are because they're not there and that hurts, but you find out that they were never actually capable of being there, which is not there. I mean, that doesn't make them a bad person. It just means what I'm being conditioned to go through is not necessarily where you are being sent either.
Mhm.
And so it's God protecting you, but also it's protecting you from having that weak link around you.
Yeah.
When you need your friends to rally and hunker down, which we've had to do many times in prayer for each other, it doesn't hurt that person who maybe wasn't so authentic isn't right there.
I love that story in the Bible about Peter and how, I mean, he chopped off the ear of one of the soldiers, like, don't
Mhm.
come after my friend Jesus.
Right.
And that's what you and Tracy have been for me, as well as several other people in my life. But it's almost like, don't come after my friend. Now, while I'm not sitting here proposing that you cut off someone's ear or
Oh,
you
I have a
harm,
couple ears I would go after right now. I know some ears.
and I could totally hear Tracy right now saying, "Don't make me go Rankin County on you,"
Yep.
because she totally would. And while I'm not advocating that, I'm just saying that's the type of pit partner that
Mhm.
you want. Even though Jesus had to very gently pick up the guy's ear and put it back on him where it belonged.
Yeah.
I think about that when you are going through life, you need those people who are willing to protect you and protect your heart, no matter the cost to them.
Right. Well, and I think though, and I agree with you 100%, because to me, that's the most important part of a friend or a relationship or whatever is, are you protecting my heart? And not like, I'm not going to tell her this because it might hurt her feelings,
Right.
but like, I mean, do you love my heart? Do I love your heart? We may love each other because like, Barbie, you're really popular and it makes me look good to hang out with you. But no, I love your heart.
Yeah.
So I feel like we do need to look at the side that says grace sometimes has to make room for that friend, because just like Peter is cutting some guy's ear off, within a day, he is also saying, I don't even know him, guys. Like, I don't even know
Yes.
who that is.
Yes.
And still, Jesus built the church on him.
Mhm.
And so your friends aren't always going to be able to come through consistently all the time, which is hard to stomach. When you've got that strong inner circle and one of them falters, that's really hard to understand sometimes. But that grace, sometimes having that place of brokenness where it's like, dude, you really let me down. Like, I really don't understand why that had to happen like that. It can be the foundation for something even better.
Ooh, yes. Now, we have got to take a moment right now because we have got a business who has helped to make today possible.
Yes, Mad Aesthetics, y'all. They are so great. They're your go-to spot for skin and natural injectables. When I tell you, it's not like they're trying to really do anything different to your face. They're just enhancing what you already have. They're bringing out your natural beauty. So you can go to their website, madaesthetics.ms.com. Give them a call at 601-559-2033. You can go by their storefront, 272 Calhoun Station Parkway, Suite E in Madison. Get more information. It's worth finding out about if you've ever had any kind of curiosity about it. We're very grateful for them, and I think you will be too.
Yeah. Thank you for doing that.
Sure.
I want to bring up 2 Corinthians 3:4. I pulled it up. Praise be to the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of compassion and the God of all comfort, who comforts us in all our troubles, so that we can comfort those in any trouble with the comfort we ourselves receive from God. So again, I want to be surrounded by believers who can comfort me because they have been given comfort from the Father.
Right. Well, and so I don't know if you watched The Chosen.
Yes.
But what I love about it is that it's filling in some of the blanks. And I know people have all kinds of feelings about that. But what we don't see in the Bible is, because they're telling all the stories, they have to fit it all in right there. That we see in The Chosen is the filling in the blanks of them as humans. So when we read the Bible, we don't see them go through individual crises.
Right.
We see Jesus teaching them, you go to the hurt, you go to the broken, you go to the unloved, the dirty, the homeless. You go to these people and you love them. And so we understand as a church, whether we act it out all the time or not, we understand what that looks like. You go to these people who are in clear need of help, clear need of Christ. But what I love about what The Chosen does, and what I think is so important in our own lives, is to be able to look at each other, to see each other within your friend group, within your Christian group, going through things and say, okay, hold on, you know what? I'm here with you. To make that, like I said a couple weeks ago, to make that beeline that says, like, I see you in pain, I see you in trouble. It is my job to come next to you and hold your arms up while your army fights. And to me, that's the most important part of being a friend, is kind of being in tune with those pieces that maybe don't show up on the surface.
Yeah. No, that's good. We get to comfort those in trouble. Speaking of that verse in 2 Corinthians, we get to comfort those in trouble with the comfort that we have received from God. I mean, if it weren't for the comfort that the Lord has given me over the years, I don't think that I could comfort you, Therese, in certain areas of your life, or that you couldn't comfort me, or that Tracy couldn't comfort me. Because everything that we go through in life isn't just about us, that sometimes it's about how we're going to be able to minister one of these partners in the pit with us.
Yeah. Well, and let's talk about how important that is too, because as I told you earlier, this week I have been attending a class that's for peer support for first responders. And one of the things, we were talking about a friend of ours that is passed now. He unfortunately was a victim of suicide. And I was talking about how he gave to everyone he came in contact with. There was literally nobody that he came in contact with that can ever say, I mean, I'm sure there's one or two, but he never took. He was constantly giving. He was constantly outpouring. And we were talking about that today, and one of the other people in my class was like, why didn't we think about that? And I said, what do you mean? He said, all he did was give. Who refilled him? And I thought, my gosh, I would have said that. I mean, if you ask me, like, do you feel like you gave to him like he gave to you? I would say, no, I there was no way. Like, he gave me so much for my career. He gave me so much as a friend, whatever. It would be almost impossible to match his level. But gosh, I never thought about what that was doing to him. So I feel like there are things that as friends we learn those lessons the hard way. But now my job after having that conversation today is my friends that are the ones that are always there. I need to make sure that when things aren't quite right, I'm there too. You
Yeah.
know.
Oh, that's so good. So good. Well, I don't know if you've been encouraged by this. I think what we have pretty much surmised here is it's okay to be someone like Daniel who has one friend and is perfectly content with having one friend.
Well, I have
I know you got
acquaintances,
other
like,
friends.
everybody that comes into the studio, like
Is a
I
friend.
could kick it with, like,
Yeah.
honestly. But like as far as that one person, like I had an issue real quick with my son, and I made one call, and Drew was like, "I'll be ready in 5 minutes. Come pick me up." Like I can't expect that from anyone else.
Right.
Drew gives me that.
Yeah.
But I have a lot of friends that I would kick it with 100%. They're just not in that, that tiny, tiny inner circle.
Yeah. In that inner circle. So
Yeah.
you
Well,
can
that's
be
what we're
like,
talking about. Yeah.
yeah, and you can be like Daniel where you've got that one person that you can call on them no matter what.
Mm.
And then you've got that stage in your life where you only have a handful, or maybe you have 10 or more. I think that what we've pretty much surmised here today, that it's okay, that if your circle is getting smaller, that's for a greater purpose. And that purpose may not necessarily always be for you. It may be for the purpose of the people who are in that inner circle with you.
Well, and it's also not a reflection on you.
Bingo.
If that-
I was about to say
Correct.
that.
If that group is getting smaller, there are multitudes of reasons that could be happening. But in the end, as long as the people you have around you are, like we've said, the ones that love your heart and know your heart. So if you do something that upsets them, instead of being like, I'm upset by this, they're like, no, I know that she would never. I remember one time I hurt a friend of mine's feelings by something I said. And I didn't hear from her for 2 or 3 days. And finally, when she came back, she said, I know you, and you would never have hurt me like you did on purpose. And she said, it took me a couple days to sort it out, but I want you to know, I know you didn't mean to, but you did. And I really respected that because the first thing she said was, I know you and I know you wouldn't hurt me. And that would have been the first thing I would have said to her is, I would never hurt you like that. That knowledge, that wanting to take the time to know each other like that, I think it's that commitment that makes a friend because you know what? When you have a divorce, when you have a breakup, when that guy or girl in your life is gone, who do you have left? Your friends. Your friends are going to stick closer in so many cases, not all, but in so many cases longer than your spouse. And so to build that on the right things and that being you see me, you know me, you love me, and vice versa. I think that's really important.
That is showing so much grace surrounded by mercy.
Yeah.
It really is. Well, I've learned something today. I don't know about you.
I have too. I always enjoy these talks.
Thank you for being a pit partner.
Thank you for being a pit partner. And sometimes you step in when you know I need a mom. And you're not old enough to be my mom. I don't mean that. But having kids of your own, you can see when I'm hurting because my parents are gone. And that is a friend.
That's what we do. Yeah. Well, thank y'all for being with us on this episode. I'm going to tell you that we're going to continue this chat over on our Patreon channel. We'll make sure that we put the link to the Patreon channel in this post so that way you can go check it out because we're going to be giving you a tip or two and how you can be that pit partner friend to someone else and how you can find other pit partners. In the meantime, we will see you again on another issue and episode.
We have issues.
We do have issues, but another episode of Y'all Listen Here.
It's a brand new day.